Hi everyone, welcome back to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. This week's guest is an absolute legend in the enduro world and in Ireland. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to guess who this might be. He's a Red Bull athlete. He's got a funny accent, and yeah, just stoked to have Greg Callaghan on the podcast. Thanks for coming on, Greg.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me. It's yeah, of all the people to say someone has a funny accent now, Paige, you come on.
I know, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. So how are you, mate? You doing all right?
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, enjoying a bit of downtime after the season. Yeah, just kind of switching off a bit and enjoying a bit of normal life, and yeah, probably get back into training pretty soon. But for now, it's nice to chill a bit.
Cool, cool. And talking about the season, you had a flipping cracking season this year. You were right up at the top end of the enduro results. When we first started coming along, you had some great battles with Sam back in 17, and you've always been up there. But this year, especially, you started your own program this year after being on numerous factory teams, and it looks like it went really well. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about putting that program together? Was that a lot of work over riding for a team? What were the benefits and the hard parts of that? And yeah, let us know. Tell us how you got back up at the top of the Enduro World Cup this year. You've done amazing, mate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, really, really happy. It's yeah, as you say, like having had good years in the past, and then a couple of years was a few years lower down results than I want to be. It's yeah, geez, it's so nice to be back where I feel like I can be. And especially as you say, like having set up my own program, it was a bit of a risk. Well, it was a big risk. So, it was either gonna go flop or pay off. And yeah, really happy it did pay off. So yeah, like I was on pro teams for factory teams for 9 years. And then last year, so I was on Da Vinci for 4 years, and then they closed the team. Purely just they were kind of going in a different direction. They're going more aluminium bikes made in Canada. So like racing a World Series on carbon bikes in Europe didn't really make sense. So they pulled the team, and then there was a lot changing in enduro, and there was a few teams were leaving, a few were getting smaller, and the ones that stayed, they kind of a lot of them stayed the same. So after speaking to a few teams, I kind of realized like, there's not that many options out there, and there's especially not many options where I feel like I'd be at my best, because that was having had a few tough years. Like the one thing I wanted from this year was to finish the season happy with my results.
Yeah,
So like I didn't want to just ride for any team that would have me, kind of thing.
yeah,
So I kind of just came to the conclusion that right, sometimes if you want things done right, at least the way you want them done, you're better off just doing it yourself. So yeah, luckily like I've been around for quite a while, so I've got the experience to kind of know what I want and know how to what it takes to go to the races, basically. So yeah, I just set about put my own program together and literally just chose the things I wanted. I kind of made a list of a few bikes I wanted to ride, the parts I wanted to ride, and just put it together with that, really. And then went chasing money kind of outside the bike industry, because obviously the bike industry is having a tough time. So if everyone's trying to feed from the same pot, it's not going to stretch that far. So yeah, it was a bit of a different approach, but it worked out well, worked out nicely, and it gave me like a bit of freedom, as I say, to kind of choose the bikes and the parts and stuff I wanted to ride. So yeah, it was definitely a busy off season. Thankfully, the season started late; didn't start until May, so we had a bit more time to work on it. And yeah, kind of I'd say around January, like things started coming together. I got the bikes, and from then on, it was kind of just business as usual, because I kind of had everything booked, had everything organized, sponsors were all locked in. So it was more the first half of the winter was different, I'd say, and then after that, it was kind of business as usual, I would say, in some ways.
and what when you get yourself in that situation where you have got some options on choosing what bike you want to ride and stuff from an enduro World Cup racer, what is the main characteristics that you want from a bike? Like, how did you decide what bike you thought you wanted? Were you able to try a bunch of bikes out, or was it just basically going off the look of the bike and you just knowing it's going to work and be reliable, I guess? How did you sort of approach all that?
Yeah, like at first I wanted to try some bikes, and when I initially contacted a couple of brands, I asked could I get a frame to try, but time just ran out so quickly that it didn't really happen. So I kind of had to just go off, yeah, what you can see when you see people racing bikes as well, what's good, and you can see if you know anyone who's been on a certain bike has gone well. You kind of have an idea of what works well, but then as well, like it kind of you go on websites like Linkage and you can see the actual characteristics of the bike. You look at the geometry, the kinematics, and everything, and see like right, like I chose the Ibis, and looking at the numbers on that, it looks like a very comfortable bike to ride. It's not, it doesn't have crazy anti-rise or any of those things. So yeah, it looked like a very rideable bike. And to be fair, when I got it, it was exactly that. Like my first run on the bike was just like, yeah, this is easy to ride. And yeah, it was just, I knew it was kind of going to work with me. So that was kind of what I was going off.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm nowhere near as experienced as you on the racing enduro at your level, but to me, I think for enduro racing, which is differently to downhill racing, you don't really need a super complicated bike with tons of different things going on. You want a bike that just feels quite neutral. It's got good geometry, rides well, and it's going to get you through the set 6 or 7 stages safely through the weekend with as much problems with as least problems as possible. Is that kind of your outlook on it, or you
Yeah,
know?
for sure, for sure. I mean, like that, it is definitely an element, but at the same time, I think most bikes these days are good, especially in terms of reliability. Like it's something that I've noticed is there's a lot less mechanicals these days at the races, whereas in the early EWS days, it was carnage. Like you'd regularly be passing boys on the side of stages with a wheel exploded or whatever. So yeah, thankfully, like in terms of you talk about running your own program, being a privateer, it's a good time to do it because bikes they hold up pretty well.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely like a neutral bike, a bike that's good everywhere because yeah, compared to downhill, like we've kind of a lot of different elements we need from the bike. It's not just point and shoot down the hill. Well, not downhill's that simple, but like yeah, you kind of want it to be good everywhere and just not be doing anything too crazy.
definitely, mate. And so, was there a couple of sponsors that had stuck by you from using on previous factory teams and stuff that you work with, or did you basically have to start from scratch with everybody?
Yeah, I managed to keep a few. Like Red Bull's obviously a massive help. So like I kind of had a bit of security there with that from the start, which was really good. And then I kept like SRAM drivetrains, Hayes brakes, SDG saddles, and then after that it was kind of yeah Liat as well. Sorry. So yeah, like I stayed pretty much head to toe on Liat kit, which was yeah a big help. It's nice to stay with familiar things as well, not change everything. Like to stay even Hayes brakes was nice because brakes are quite a big thing. But yeah, quite a few parts did change on the bike, to be fair. But it was all things that I tried and things that I knew was going to serve me well. So yeah.
Cool. And then how does it work with your program and having a mechanic and support at the races? How did that work this year?
Yeah, so one of the first things I did was so Ewan Horner, who was the guy who was my mechanic this year. One of the first things I did was I spoke to him. And like he wasn't a mechanic before, but he works in a bike shop. He races at a good level, so like he kind of has the pieces of the puzzle I was looking for. So I kind of went to him and I was like, "Look, this is what I'm trying to do." At that time it was quite uncertain, and I didn't know would I have other riders or how big or small it was going to be. But I was like, "Do you want to be involved, no matter how it kind of works out?" And he was keen, so that was really good because yeah, like for this to work, I needed a mechanic, because to put in that much effort to put the program together and train and everything, and then if you get to the race and you're having to work on your own bike, it takes a lot out of you. So yeah, as I say, I wanted to finish the year proud of my results, so that was a big part of that happening. So yeah, Ewan was on board from the start, and yeah, we travelled, me, Ewan, and then we had Tama, my filmer, so he was hanging around as well, which was cool. He had brought the good vibes, and it was good to gave it a kind of a team feel as well, which was cool. And then my girlfriend Audrey came when she could as well, so it was funny. Like at some races, it was that we had three staff and one rider essentially,
Yeah.
which last year I had it was kind of two riders, one staff, maybe two at sometimes. So yeah, like in finale, I felt like geez, I've actually got more support on the ground here than I have in the past years. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. It's funny because it looks like the opposite, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was well looked after by everyone around me, so it was really cool.
Cool. And how did it work? Sort of, does your mechanic go around with you in practice? So you've kind of got a teammate to, talk about the stages, and how does that work? Because when you're with a team, you normally go around the stages in practice with one of your teammates, I guess.
Yeah, so we did. Ewan did come at the venues it suited because some venues it kind of made more sense for him to be shuttling. But when it suited, like I had two HD6s built up identical, so he would ride my training bike in practice, and then so if I did need any tools or spares or whatever to rob off that, I could. And then still, to be fair, hung out a bit with Evan, my teammate from last year, so he was kind of on a one-man program as well. So we kind of just teamed up, and that kind of kept it. It was good because we know each other well. We know
Yeah.
what we like and how to speak to each other. So that was kind of it was nice to feel like I had a teammate a bit at the races that we practiced together.
Cool. Cool.
Mm.
Uh, well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously worked well for you this year. You had some cracking results this year, and you were back up at the top end. Um, is that giving you a newfound drive? Because you've been doing how many years have you been racing Enduro World Cup now? You've been at it a while, haven't you?
Yeah, since the start, like I was in Punta Ala, which was 2013, so I think it's what 11 or 12 years now. So I've done a bit of mileage.
And I guess it's changed throughout those years. Even when we as a team started around 16, 17, it was like 2 day races with seemed like it had longer stages, 2 days of practice, and now it's come down to 1 day of practice and 1 day of racing. So it's been up and down through different formats and different stuff going on at the Enduro World, whether it's a World Cup or a World Series. And you've been through the whole part of it. What would you say has been uh, the best format and the like true to what you think Enduro should be?
Well, yeah, it's hard to say. Like the thing I really liked from the first years was that the format changed actually. So like depending on the venue, like we would go to say Wicklow and there was, you had seven short tracks.
Yeah,
So it was a good venue for one big day.
yeah,
Whereas you have to put that into a 2 day race, it probably wouldn't have been that good.
sure.
And then we go to somewhere like La Tuile where there's eight massive tracks, long ones. So it
Yeah,
splits up nicely into 2 days. And, I think back then, like a lot of people would see those 2 day races as like their goal for the year was to go to finale and finish the 2 day race because you 2 big days of practice, 2 big days of racing. And like even the top boys, I think you're waking up on Sunday being like, oh, I'm tired here. Like, so
yeah,
it brings the endurance into it. And you did see like Sunday afternoon, the results would change a bit because
yeah.
people are tired, they make mistakes and whatever happens. So I think that it changing, I think, was a really cool thing because, and as well, that would change the result at different venues because, the Frenchies might be better at the 2 day races
Yeah.
and the North American guys might be better at the 1 day races. So it like really made it different at each race. So it's kind of, yeah, like it's a shame now to like go to finale and only ride 5 tracks or, go to La Tuile and only ride 4 or 5. But yeah, yeah. So I'd say it'd be nice to have some 2 day races back, but unfortunately, I don't think it's on the table.
Is it not? Have they kind of shared with you, because the bits of information I've heard since we stopped doing it last year, the start of this season I heard certain rumors, and then the end of the season I heard different rumors. So, I originally heard that there was rumors that they thought the future enduro was going to be e-bike enduro, and then at the end of the season it looks like they're taking a break next year from e-bike racing. So are they constantly asking you in meetings and stuff, you top riders, to what you want, or is it basically, are they trying to, are they just directing it the way they think it should be, and you're just getting told what you're going to be doing?
It's a bit of both, like to be fair, because I'm not. There is like some riders and managers do have meetings, but I'm not involved in that because I'm not on an official team anymore. So I don't hear a whole lot. You'll kind of hear bits and bobs around the place, and some of it's rumors, some of it's true. So it's kind of hard to filter out what is real. But I definitely think, to be fair, I do think they do have the best interest of the sport at heart, and they are trying to, the decisions they're making, they do believe it is better for the sport. And yeah, I think, to say like to talk about 2 day races, like I don't know, is it gone forever because the format has changed quite a lot. Like we see with pro stages, they came and they went, and yeah, I think it's honestly hard to say, and hard to say how it will move, because I'm sure there's more changes to come.
Sure. And have you over the the different changes in the format and stuff, going from you know maybe short at some venues with shorter stages that are more like you know not much longer than a downhill stage over one day. Have you had to change your training up much over the years to sort of go along with the format, or is that always stayed quite consistent for enduro racing?
Yeah, for sure, it has changed, and especially I think in the earlier years things were changing quite fast, and you do one season, and like I think, what was it, 2016 or something, we had a year of just massive races.
Yeah.
Every race was huge. So then you finish that year and you're like, right, I need, a big aerobic engine to do this endurance stuff. And then the next year we'd end up going to a lot of venues that had short stages and it was all explosive. And you're like, all right, okay, next year be explosive. And you just didn't know what way it was going to move.
So
So whereas now I think, we kind of know it's one day races. We know it's going to be 20 something minutes of race. So you can kind of predict, like I think now we don't have many stages more than 10 minutes.
yeah,
So you kind of know roughly you're going to be racing 4 to 8 minute stages on average.
yeah,
So it's maybe easier to predict what's coming, and it's kind of is hard trying to predict. But yeah, definitely in the early years it changed a lot. And you think of, like, if you look at a result sheet now from 2013, 14, the likes of Nico Lowe, he was a
yeah,
blind specialist, long stage specialist,
yeah,
and from what Enduro was then that he was doing really well at, it's like it's gone so far from that. And I think it's not only the makeup of the stages, but also I think just the level of the riders. Like back then, you could kind of ride a solid pace and stay clean all weekend, and you
yeah.
do well. Whereas now, like, you just need to be swinging off it. Like it's crazy the level that you have to be at to be competitive now.
Yeah, I mean, I was, looking at the results this year. It was so close between your top guys, and some of the races were won and lost in the elite men's category with smaller gaps than the downhill World Cup, which is super close.
Yeah,
Um,
it's nuts. Yeah,
Incredible how close it was at some of the races. And do you nowadays do you have to attack like every single stage as if you're on a downhill run?
yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, like my kind of thinking behind it is like I just pretend every stage is short, even if like it's horrible physical stage. You have to, because I think if you're taking it, like a chance to recover and like, all right, I'll sit down here and chill, you've just lost half a second and you're not getting it back.
Yeah,
So yeah, you really just have to be on the limit the whole time. And quite often, I think, at least in my case, like if I'll surprise myself how quick you can kind of recover and you can keep that intensity. And on the other side, you have to surprise yourself how, when you do try chill out and relax, how much slower you will go.
yeah.
So I think just trying to remember that, and yeah, realize that like if you're sitting down, there's five guys that aren't sitting down and chilling. So you need to get up and sprint.
Sure. And over the years that that you've competed, there's you've battled and competed with lots of different champions of the World Series over the years, and it seems like some of the you've got your consistent guys that like Richie and Martin's been a little bit up and down lately, but you've got you guys that have been at it quite a long time, like yourself, that are always up there. And then you have some guys come in for a few years that are super fast, and then they kind of drop off a little bit. Who would you say over the years has been the most impressive, competitors that you've battled with that have really, made you try and step your game up, or is there just too many of them to really mention?
Yeah, like for sure, there is a lot, definitely, and in different ways. Like obviously, Sam is, he's a special man, and like some of the things he did when he was, racing at the top in enduro was crazy, and like coming into last stages, and he would need to make up 4 or 5 seconds, and you could see by him that like in his head he knew he was going to make it up, and he'd pull out a liner, he just, yeah, like he's just incredible. But you know, I think it's hard to look past Richie when you look at, you know, like in terms of stats, like he's definitely the best enduro rider we've ever seen, I would say. And I think the span of how long he's been at the top, and like he's won 4 overall titles, but I think he's been second 2 or 3 times. So out of what 11 years we've been racing, he could probably have 5 or 6 titles,
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy.
yeah,
And especially considering how young he was at the start, like I think he was only 17 or 18 when EWS came along, and he was still putting in top times back then. So yeah, I think Richie. And I think the thing with Richie nowadays is that he doesn't really have any weaknesses. Like you can go to any venue, any conditions, and he'll be up there. He'll be competitive. So that's probably the reason why, you know, like this year he kind of dominated. And yeah, I'd say it's that consistency over all conditions and courses is probably puts him maybe above everyone right at the moment.
yeah. And then you've got your likes of Jack and Alex Rodeau that are coming in and winning certain races, and Jesse was the last couple of years, and Martin. But this year there's been quite a lot of different winners, and Charlie Murray as
Mm.
well now. It's kind of gone like the downhill now. There's so many different people that can grab a win at the weekend. Um,
Yeah.
so it's super competitive. Um, but what do you think? The vibe that I'm getting from Enduro is a different vibe than say in 2017, 18. Enduro seemed to be like on the up. It was the thing to kind of do. Obviously, it's an amazing participation sport for the non-pros because you get good value for money for your race, don't you?
Mm.
You whatever your race entry is, you're getting at least 2 big days on your bike all day. The industry was thriving on, coming out with new products for enduro bikes because, you sell a lot more enduro bikes than downhill or cross country. But just the last couple of years, and I don't know if it's actually true, but the whispers you hear is, oh, Enduro's on a downward spiral. That teams are pulling out left, right, and centre, which they are. Um, why do you think that is? Why do you think it was going like this, and now it's sort of
Yeah, like I think like as you say, like the whispers is a big part of it. And you know, when you're at the races, everything's really good. The racing is exciting. The courses are good. You know, at a lot of venues there are really good crowds, and I think there is a lot of yeah, just the whispers and the you know kind of a lot of people maybe jump on the negativity bandwagon,
yeah,
and I think a lot of the complaining is maybe not justified because when you do maybe properly look into what people are complaining about, it's not you know there's not really problems there. So it's kind of hard to say, and I think in terms of teams pulling out, like you know, it's no secret the bike industry's having a tough time at the moment, and I think no matter what happened this season with the enduro racing, a few teams would have pulled out just purely as a business decision, and I think you know there's downhill teams that are leaving as well. So it's not only you know downhill is stronger than it's ever been, and there's teams leaving. So I think that's a big sign that it's maybe not actually reflective of the racing. It's more just you know companies making business decisions. So yeah, it's hard to say. You know, I think the first year's Enduro was new, so every year it was just getting better and better, and it was evolving. So it was always going to plateau at some point. Um, and yeah, I think yeah, it's hard to say. I think in you know definitely not having live coverage hurts us.
yeah,
Um, and hopefully, I think hopefully that will happen someday because at a few races this year, like they had live feeds in the finish bowls. It wasn't online anywhere, but it was in the finish, and it was really good. And like you know, a lot of people who would come and watch races but they've never seen a live feed. They would stand there, and afterwards they were kind of saying like, "Wow, like there's so much actually happens within a stage." And like even there was one in Leogang, and like we saw Charlie Murray crash 3 times,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and it was insane. Like the atmosphere at the bottom was crazy,
yeah.
and it was so good. And you're just like, if that was online and more people could watch it, I think the sport would be in a much better place. So hopefully that will happen. I know it's difficult because of where enduro is, and you know, just the logistics of covering an enduro race is hard, but yeah, hopefully we'll get there. I think that will help.
Yeah, I mean, looking back over the years that I was at the races, the sort of other than the stages that obviously the riders have the favorite stages and the really cool venues that you get to ride your bike, but the three standout venues for me are Medina,
Mm,
Wicklow, um, even the Tweed Valley here. Those
mm.
those venues that have, maybe shorter stages all on the same sort of hill or in the same area, that enables a massive crowd to be able to come and at venues where a lot of people are traveling to ride the bikes generally anyway. Um,
Yeah,
you get the crowd that can walk around from stage to stage because it's doable. Whereas you get maybe some, venues like La Tuile or something like that, which as a rider is insane to do, and the tracks are amazing, but it's so hard for the crowd to go and watch all these different stages all over the place.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like the places that we go to as well, like certain places are more passionate. Like Poland this year was brilliant
Was
because it
it?
was, as you say, like it was kind of a smaller hill. The stages were close together, and in Poland they don't get as many events like that, like
Yeah,
World Cup type events. So everyone was stoked, and like all day it was raining a lot of the day, and all day the stages were packed with people.
yeah,
Like it was brilliant. But then you go to like Comblu, and you're close to Chamonix, Majev, all these like pretty big places, but they have ski World Cups, mountain running, world level events. So they're just like it's kind of just another event. So
yeah,
maybe the locals don't get as excited or come out in droves quite as much. So yeah, it's hard to know what you could do to make that better. How can you make the people in Chamonix care more about enduro racing
yeah, yeah,
to come up the hill? But yeah, there's definitely been a few standouts, and yeah, like looking back on Wicklow, it was nuts, and it was just the perfect venue for a race because you parked in the field at the bottom.
yeah,
There was a way marked trail for the spectators, and it was if you want to see two stages, you can walk 4K and be these two places at these times. If you want to see five stages, you can walk 12K, and it was all just mapped out, so it was easy.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a big part of it too, is making it easier for people to come watch.
And that was, the I went there 3 times. Was there just three Enduro World Cups
Yeah.
there? And you won two of them.
Mm.
Was that your first Enduro World Cup win in Wicklow,
Yeah, yeah, 2015 was, yeah.
2015?
Yeah.
And you know, did, did you grow up like close to that place? Is that where you kind of grew
It's
up?
funny, like, because so at that venue, it's like 40 minutes from my house,
Okay,
but between like my house and there is all the other riding spots.
okay,
So like we don't actually ride there that often, and like I've probably only been there a handful of times since the
yeah,
race was on. So like I'd raced there a lot over the years and stuff,
yeah.
but in terms of like riding there on the weekends, like not really, no. But
But
I
but
think I think even been there, if you race there a couple of times beforehand, you're already at a pretty big advantage. So like, yeah, there was definitely a local advantage for sure.
yeah, but, I mean, I wasn't even suggesting that you had an advantage there, but obviously you're at a place that's close to where you grow up. The Irish fans are super passionate about racing, and obviously they were all behind you. Did that give you an extra like boost to get that first EWS win? Like it must have felt super special to win, in your own country for a start, but in your own kind of region as well.
Yeah, it was crazy. The whole weekend was nuts. And to be fair, I think the first year I didn't take it in as much as I could have because I knew it was going to be crazy. Because like as soon as a race was announced when I was out riding, people were talking to me about it. But I think people didn't really think I would win because I think up until that point, my best result was like eighth, maybe. So it was
Mhm.
kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if you got a podium kind
Yeah,
of thing? And like, I kind of knew maybe I had an outside chance, but still, I wasn't going into it to win. So like, I kind of tried to block as much of that out as possible and just focus on doing my thing.
yeah,
And I think it's only looking back that I realized like how crazy it actually was.
yeah,
Because yeah, like I was just kind of on a cloud all day, to be honest. And then I think 16 and 17, I took it in more and I got to enjoy it a bit more, which was
yeah,
cool. And like even in 17, I rode around with Sam.
yeah,
So like that was nuts, to be riding around. I was leading the series at the time. So like to be riding around with the leaders board with Sam Hill on a place close to home, it
yeah.
was just, yeah, surreal. Like it's crazy.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, yeah, I mean, I remember how stoked the fans were for you winning that, and I don't think there was anyone there that wasn't buzzing for you. It was a really cool experience for even us to see. But once you won that first EWS, did that put your mind in a different place where you thought I can win this series or I can win these races, or did you still think a little bit, oh, I won that race because it was in my home sort of turf sort of thing? How did that affect you?
It was kind of a bit of both. Like the good thing I think with that one was that we raced the week after in Tweed Valley, and I got third there. So I kind of, after those 2 weeks, obviously confidence was really high. And then I went and spanned myself like a week later. So I missed one. Yeah, I missed the next race then. So that kind of brought me back down to earth a bit. But yeah, it definitely changed my mindset and gave me the confidence. And like, yeah, to be honest, like I kind of fell victim to it as well because then that off season, all winter I was thinking of winning races, winning the series, and I was just thinking about results and the kind of end product of racing. And I remember going to Chile the first race in 2016, and I was thinking so much about podiums and results and stuff that I didn't focus enough on the process and like what I was doing, and I kind of lost that dog in me, you could say. Like I wouldn't say I got complacent, but I just wasn't focusing on the right things.
Right, okay.
So that was actually a wake up call of like, right now you need a race is, you kind of need to train with the confidence that you're going to win, but then race that you're coming last and you need to, really push on. So yeah, it was definitely a learning curve, I think, to go from being, a top 20, top 10 guy to then having a win and then kind of managing that and kind of keeping my focus in the right place.
Yeah, sure. And then obviously after you've started to win some races, obviously yourself you want to win more races, don't you? You're always trying
Mm.
to improve and get better. 2017 was an amazing season for you. As you say, you were leading at the first part of the season, and then what kind of do you think? How do you think you could have done anything different to continue and win that series? What kind of happened that year?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like obviously battling Sam and Adrian that year, and they were both on fire as well. So it was always going to be difficult. Like I definitely see the Irish race as kind of a missed opportunity there because I won Madeira 2 weeks before, and then was leading the series, and then those 2 weeks in between was just mental.
Right.
With like once I got home, I was kind of getting pulled in all directions for like media things, and I probably just did too much.
Yeah,
So then by the time we got to the race in Wicklow, like I dropped in on stage one and I was just like, oh, I'm tired. You feel your legs straight away and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be hard. And I got 10th there. And considering I'd won it the last 2 years, like that was definitely a lot of points
yeah,
gone.
yeah.
But after that, I was pretty happy with the rest of the season. I think I was 10th in Mio. I could have been better there, but it was a hard race. It was classic French kind of just difficult race. Um, yeah, and I think the rest of the season was pretty solid, especially considering the previous years. So, I ended up third in the overall. I was still happy with that. I definitely,
It's
to
good.
get second would have
Yeah,
been great, but I was still definitely happy with the season. And I think it's always the way, like had I have maybe started slower and then built, swapped my first half of the season, second half of the season, I probably would have been happier. But
yeah,
yeah, like when you've gone from leading the series halfway through the year to finishing third, it feels a little bit more like you've gone backwards, even if I was
yeah,
I was still happy in the end.
yeah. And also, at an individual race, it's a little bit different to a downhill race. You know, if you start off, well, first of all, do you always check your times between stages? Do you check your times after every stage, or are you the type of rider that doesn't want to know until he's kind of finished, or does everyone check the times now because it's so close?
Now I think we all do, yeah. Because like if you're if you're having an okay day, if you're like between the tens and thirties or whatever, you can avoid it. But I think if you're having a good day, you'll know by people's body language.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, I kind of learned my lesson in Tasmania
Yeah,
because we piss wet day, rained all day, so the timing was kind of down. Like there was times we're going in, but they weren't uploading, so I didn't know anything. And yeah, I had like finished stage six or seven stages, finished stage six, and Rick Blockland, he knew the results, but I didn't. And he was like, "What do you think of this last stage?" And I was just I said to him, like, completely unknown what was going on in the race. So I was just like, yeah, it's a good stage. Like, I don't think you'll win the race there, but you could definitely lose it. And I left him, thought no more about what I'd said.
That was a really short stage, wasn't it? It was like under a minute, wasn't it? 30 odd seconds or
Yeah,
something.
really short. Yeah. So then we're going up the fire road, and like I was riding on Win Masters and Jack Moore, and the three of us going up, and people were just like, "Yeah, go on, Greg. Good luck, Greg. Well done, Greg." And I was like, "That's weird. Like, why aren't they saying it to the other boys?" And then one of the videographers was just like started running beside me, and he was just like, "Oh, do you know how you're doing?" And I was just like, "No, no, I don't know." And he was like, "Do you want to know?" And I was like, "No, that's okay." And he just said, "You're doing well. You're doing really, really well."
Right.
So I went from like not having a clue, like you could have told me I was 15th, and I would have been like, "Yeah, cool." But it turns out I was leading the race by like 3 seconds.
Mhm.
And like because I went from not knowing to just being dropped in it like 10 minutes before the start of the last stage, I just got nervous.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just had a stupid crash on the top of the last stage. And yeah, like I got to the bottom, and like Wayne and Jack, the boys I was riding with, they had gotten word of the results and they knew. So they like waited at the finish to kind of congratulate me, and I crossed the line. I was just like, oh, I fucked up, boys. I've crashed.
Oh,
And yeah, so I kind of threw away the win there. So then ever since I've been like, right, check the times so that
you
you
know
can
what?
kind of deal with it over the day and process it.
Yeah, yeah.
And to be fair, the next race again, then in Madeira, similar situation leading before the last stage, but because I'd been checking the times, I knew, and I was much calmer
Yeah.
because I'd kind of I'd processed a lot over the whole weekend. So yeah, I got my revenge that weekend, you could say.
Good stuff. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, because how does your mindset work at an enduro? If say you crash on the first stage, does that like put you in a big down and you think, oh no, I've blown the whole weekend? Or, are you obviously you've got a lot more stages than a downhill race. So are you always pretty confident that you can make time back, or does that change your mindset for the rest of the race?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, and it's one of the really hard things about enduro that I think isn't spoken about that much is that we've so much time to think.
Yeah.
So you can really, you can really go in a downward or an upward spiral of how your mindset is. And it's not only so much time to think, like you're around your competitors and other riders, and if you're around a couple of guys that are having a bad day, it can affect you. And if they're having a good day, it can also lift you. So there's quite a lot of time to dwell on stuff. So it is pretty easy, yeah, like if you do have a bad first stage, to let that set the tone for the day.
Mhm.
So you kind of have to, be good at keeping control of your mindset and knowing how to reset when you need to, and how to just, for me, I think the big thing is just focusing on stage by stage. So
Sure.
once stage one is done, you just start thinking about stage two, and you kind of put it behind you, and then you don't reflect too much. And like for me, checking the results, it's more I'll just have a glance to get a rough idea of where I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might even just look at the time gap, because a lot of the times, like finale is times are generally really tight. So like on stage one, you could be 20th, but only 3 seconds off the win. But if you look at 20th, you'll see that as a bad result.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the 3 seconds thing, you'll be like, oh, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of have to know how to manage it, and tell yourself the right things, I think, as well.
Who would you say, currently who you're racing against? Who would you say the strongest minded guys that you're racing with? Because like you said, I think one of the huge things that Sam had when he was winning was, as well as being an incredible bike rider, he's really strong minded when he's in the right place and he's doing well.
Yeah,
Who would you agree with that? Um,
yeah, definitely. Like I think Sam's mental strength is probably one of his biggest strengths,
yeah,
because yeah, his confidence, but only I think he just knew how to deal with the
yeah,
different emotions of racing, really. So yeah, definitely he was one of the ones that stands out big time. I think at the moment, like people are strong in different ways as well. Like you look at Jack Moore, like he's obviously incredibly resilient with all the injuries he's been through, and he still comes back to the top and he still keeps on fighting. I think Richie as well is probably a bit of a standout because he's been so consistent. So obviously you need a good head for that. But I think everyone at the top is good at it
yeah,
for sure, and that's probably a big reason of why they're at the top.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah, but it's a huge part for sure. And you see it where like you'll get riders maybe come in and they don't have any expectation. It might be, a downhill rider coming in into
yeah,
enduro or whatever, so they've no pressure, no expectation. They'll do really well, and then they might be like, right, I'll do a full season of this, and then there's pressure, there's expectation, and it might change the results, and some people rise to it as well, where the pressure gets the best out of them. But yeah, it definitely has an effect on people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously he's been doing it a while now, but he's really impressed me over the last few years. Is Alex Rideau?
Yeah.
He came, I guess he came from a trials background
Mm.
originally, but he's been super impressive. And again, he's a flat pedal rider, which
Yeah.
Sam wasn't. I saw Martin won a World Cup this year on flat pedals because it was super muddy. But generally speaking, there's not that many guys riding flat pedals. Um, do you think it's a disadvantage, or do you think with the variation in tracks on enduro, you can get away with it a little bit more than maybe in downhill these days?
Yeah, I think so. Like, because enduro generally the tracks are a bit slower and a bit more technical. So I think there's definitely a place where flats can be better. And there's definitely, like, I remember my dad telling me, I think he might have been watching with you actually in Betson one year, and it was just an awkward flat corner with kind of like roots pushing you to the outside, and everyone was coming in a bit awkward and like clipped in and a bit off balance and like pretty much stopping and pedaling out of the corner. And he said Sam just came in, put his foot down, pulled the bike around and went. And
Yeah,
he probably gained a couple of seconds, and it was like, if you were to teach someone how to ride a flat corner, it wouldn't be that,
yeah,
because he just basically pulled the bike around it. But like it was faster because he just had the flexibility with the flats to do that. So I think there's definitely a time and a place when they are better. And there's definitely times when, like, you see Alex win, you see Sam win, you see Martin win on them now, and you're like, geez, right, I need to ride flats this winter. I need to learn how to do it. But then I put them on, I do one ride, and I'm just like, this is terrible. And I put my clips back on because it's mad because, like, I used to ride a hardtail with flats and it was fine, but I think I've just ridden clips for so long now, I don't think I can do it. At least not well enough that I'd ever consider racing with them.
okay. Because I mean that's interesting for me because I'd say you're one of the up there with the fit and strong guys, as well as you've got the skills obviously, but you seem like you spend a lot of time and you put a lot of effort into your training and your strength work and all that. So the maybe the disadvantage to that you'd get riding flat pedals, I would say you're one of the guys that could overcome that with your strength and your fitness. But it's interesting to hear whether that you wouldn't maybe take that risk. You might stick with your flat pedals for a month, do a race, and it might be amazing. But um, is it just too much of the unknown and thinking that you can't do it because you've been on the clips for so long?
Yeah, maybe it could be that. And I think, as you say, like, if I did just put time in and commit to riding them, I might get better at it. But like, when I put them on now, like, I feel like I can't pedal at all. I can't, as soon as it gets rough, I just like tighten up because it feels like my feet are just going to fly off. So yeah, I think I'm like, when I put them on, I'm so far from where I would want to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
that it maybe feels unachievable. Um, but yeah, never say never. Maybe this will be the winter I'll put them on.
Cool, cool. Um, so, obviously you've had a successful year. Well, first of all, let's talk about this year was the first time they had the World Championships. How was that having, after racing for this long, how was it having a actual World Championships in the Enduro for you?
Yeah, it was class. So cool. Because, like, it's been rumored for years. And I think pretty much since EWS started, it's been a conversation. So it's really, really cool to see it finally happen. Um, because, yeah, the rainbows, like, it's special and it brings a certain level of, like, credibility to the discipline as well. So it kind of, yeah, like, to see now, like, Alex Rideau going around with the rainbow stripes on, like, it's very, very cool. Um, yeah, I think it was a massive milestone for the sport. And oh no, right. Yeah, and like, in terms of the event itself, it was class. It was brilliant, and I think the guys did a really, really good job because the weather was
Yeah,
so against them. Like, the fact we had actually snow during the week was crazy. And yeah, like, I heard they had 100 people on the track sweeping snow off for the like 2 days
yeah,
before practice. And to think that, like, we raced and like we didn't really ride in any snow, the track conditions were really good. it was yeah, hats off to them because it was a big job.
Sure. And like, did going into that race, did you feel any added pressure, like because it was the first World Championships and you were having a good season? So, you definitely had the pace to be up there with the top boys, which you were, and potentially get a medal or even become world champion. Did you feel any extra pressure for that, or did you just kind of take it as another World Cup?
It's definitely different. And I think even you see that in the results, the same in downhill. Like the results are always different at world champs. Generally, there's French at the top, which we had French one and two, which I don't know what they do, but they just seem to step up on the 1 day races. It's incredible. But
Yeah,
like for me, it felt more like a bonus race. I think Ludenville the week before having been a really good race for me, it kind of lifted the pressure
yeah,
because it was like I'd already ticked a really big box, and it was like, right, I've got good form. If this race goes badly, I don't lose anything. Like I didn't affect the overall or whatever. But if it goes well, it's a great bonus.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that yeah, it was kind of nice to have that pressure off, I would say. And yeah, it was a great race. It was really cool. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, like you said, like I was in a battle for the medals up until the last stage, which was really cool. To think back a year or two to have been in that position even was class. And like it would have been great, obviously, to get a medal, but yeah, the boys I was competing with were really fast and they pulled it out. So
Sure.
yeah, fair play to them.
But yeah, I mean, congrats on both Ludenville and that last race. I mean, that must be you know, obviously you've had so many good results, but you've had some, dips in along the way. It must have been a great feeling to have them two back-to-back results, and then going into the off season thinking, I'm right back at the top of the game here. Um,
Mm.
has that opened any doors with other teams again, or is that something that you don't really want to do? You want to focus on making your own program better? How's that gone?
Yeah, I'm definitely keen to stick with my program. It's worked really well this year, and it was kind of when I made the decision last year. It was never really like a 1 year thing, like to tie me over. It was like, right, I'm going out my own, and I'm gonna,
Yeah,
try build a proper program out of it.
yeah,
So, yeah, I'm just trying to build on kind of what I did this year, and I think an off season without changing too much, I can kind of build on what we did this year. So, yeah, and I think with the season being fully in Europe, it's a pretty good time to do a one man show like I'm doing. So, yeah, I don't really see a reason to change.
and are you gonna stick with a similar program next year, or are you gonna try and is the goal to add some more riders to your program in the future, or
Yeah, I'd love to. Like, definitely, that's kind of the ultimate goal is to turn it into a proper team someday. And I would have liked to have for next year take on some riders, but it's just not the right time with the industry. Like and as we're saying, the budgets just aren't there. So yeah, I think it probably suits a lot of brands to have just one rider rather than a full team. So I can kind of be a bit more flexible there and yeah, but hopefully this time next year things will be in a better position and I'll be able to take some more riders in.
sure. And do you think like for 25 that you're going to see a lot more of the top riders having to do their own sort of program like you're doing? Because, if you've not got a lot of money in a company, in a bike company to spend on sports marketing, and you can have one good rider that's going to do it himself and you're going to save money on staff and stuff, it is more cost effective and going to make sense for your brand to keep yourself in there. If a brand is sponsoring you and you're getting on the podium and getting top tens and top fives, and you're getting coverage, add in somebody, a younger rider that you're bringing through that might not be in the top 30 to a bike brand. That's not actually doing anything for them, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's definitely a lower cost way of doing it. Like there's certainly some risk involved. Like had I've gotten injured the week before finale this year, Ibis wouldn't really have gotten anything to benefit from that
Yeah,
support. So yeah, it's a bit of a risk, but it's maybe a lower risk than committing to a full team budget.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think you probably will see more riders doing it next year. Based on kind of the rumors that are going around. But yeah, I think it can be a good move, and I think for enduro, with downhill it's different. You need quite a lot of resources, and you look at how many people are on a team now, and you've line spotters and suspension people and all that. So with enduro, you turn up a rider and a mechanic, and you're pretty well armed to compete with everyone. So
Yeah.
it's good that way, and that's what kind of makes enduro. It's one of the cool things with enduro is that it's a pretty fair playing field in terms of, you compare it to a lot of other sports. It's not as easy to just turn up and be competitive, and we're riding the same bikes you buy off the shelf. So yeah, I think that's for me, that's one of the cool things with enduro, and I hope it stays that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I heard of a few rumors. I don't know if this is true. That obviously the first race of the year, I saw lots of people complaining on Instagram. To be fair, more people that didn't get a good result, but they were saying, "Oh, it's gone the other way. It's gone." I think 2018, if I remember rightly, the tracks were getting pretty steep and difficult to ride. Really gnarly. And then it sounded like it had gone the opposite way at the start of this year. Obviously, the top guys seem to be able to, and girls seem to be able to still get the results no matter what the format is or the stages are. Um, but I heard rumours that it was going to go a little bit more like that, and there was going to be potentially um, steered back to having 150, 160 mil bikes. When we first started, like you said, there were so many mechanicals because people had lighter wheels and not full downhill tires and stuff. And then it kind of got more where the enduro bikes were kind of like mini downhill bikes, basically just as heavy, if not heavier in some circumstances to actually get through the weekend. um, is there any, have you heard any rumors that way yourself, that there's going to be maybe a suspension travel limit, or, the type of bikes that they're steering the sport towards?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I've only seen, I guess you mean that document that was leaked. Like I've only seen that as well. And I think, to be fair, like I was saying before, like it was always hard to predict what direction the sport was going to go. So at least if that is true, at least they've given us some indication to the direction they're trying to go with it. And I don't think it's a rule that you're going to need a 36 mil fork. I think it's more that's the type of course they're trying to build.
Yeah.
So at least it kind of gives us a hint to what we might get. And I think the big thing with like finale this year, like I think the only thing that people were complaining about really was that the liaisons were a bit tight, which I don't know, was that intentional or was it just, sometimes they get misjudged. Um, so yeah, I think the big thing with that was it was unexpected. I think had we probably have known how hard that was going to be, I think everyone probably would have moved a bit quicker between stages, and it maybe wouldn't have been as much of an issue. But I think the sport has changed quite a bit over the last 10 years, and it definitely went in the direction where it was more gravity orientated, it was more downhill. And no one was really complaining then because it's maybe the cooler thing. But then if they try to go back to making it a bit more physical, I think that's when people complain a bit because it's less cool and it's a bit harder. When you think back, like I remember the first race in Scotland, we raced that 3G track, which was probably a minute and a half, and then we did like a minute and a half up a fire road,
Yeah.
and then we did like another minute of trail, and like it was crazy, like to have that much pedaling up a fire road in like a 4 minute stage.
Uh,
So like it's definitely been a lot more physical in the past.
yeah.
And I think we've probably gone really far from that. So I think to come back a bit and bring it a bit more on the physical side, because to me, I think we should be like halfway between XC and downhill.
Okay. Yeah.
At least that's my opinion. But I think at the moment, or at least 2 or 3 years ago, we were definitely closer to downhill. So yeah, like for me to have a bit more physicality in it, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
To be
Yeah.
honest.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and like I know everyone probably doesn't agree with that, but I think it's kind of cool.
I don't think there's a right and wrong way to look at it, and obviously some athletes prefer it more downhill orientated. Some prefer to have a bit more physicality in the stages. I guess the difference between downhill and enduro is even if you have full downhill stages, you've still got the physicality of pedaling to the stages. So
Mm.
that's the difference. But then, most people can get fit and strong enough, even a top downhiller to get round the day and still be able to have an advantage on the downhill stages. Whereas if you've got a downhill stage with minute and a half sprint in the middle, then you do have to start becoming a different athlete, don't you, to be able to win at the world level at that as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like looking back, like what made enduro really interesting at the start was that those massive stages and it was tough, and that kind of it adds another element to the racing. Whereas I think if we have like five downhill stages and you'll kind of see the results from stage one and it'll kind of stay the same over the day because the same people will have the pace. But then if stage two is a bit more,
Yeah,
stage one is like a 4 minute downhill stage and stage two is a 10-minute stage with a
yeah,
kind of big physical element to it, it'll change the results, and then it kind of makes the racing more interesting and it makes us unique as well.
yeah.
So, I think mixing it up a bit would kind of do no harm.
This year, Greg, and last year, from watching on Instagram and following you because I've not been at the races, you've had another dabble doing quite a few downhill races when you've been able to fit them in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I think, yeah, it's always cool, to get some in. And I think, yeah, like I did one preseason this year, and it was actually like perfect bit of training, I would say. And I think especially on the right track, like that, it wasn't too gnarly a track, so I raced the enduro bike, and yeah, it was really cool. It's something I enjoy, and I think it's good training because it kind of helps you build that intensity as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, in the past, you've thought of, downhill as coming and racing enduro. Um, you don't think about working on your downhill skills as such, but you think about working on your endurance and your fitness to be able to compete in the downhill. Sorry, in the enduro. But do you think, now with the times being that close and the racing being that intensive, do you think it's kind of going the other way? So it's quite important for enduro racers to do a bit more downhill to get that intensity and speed up, and riding a bit more on the edge, than maybe in the past.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think like I've done some, but there's definitely guys that have done a lot more. Like you look at Martin and Richie, and even Jesse was in Monzanan. Um, and
That's
yeah, I think like
very well.
yeah, yeah, they've done brilliant, and it would have been really cool to see Jesse racing Monzanan actually, because yeah, I'm sure he could definitely do well as well. But yeah, I think just getting used to the speed and getting used to kind of being on that limit is really good. And I think if you have that, if you're comfortable riding at 110%, it's easier to kind of pull that back to 100% if need be on a longer stage or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think there's definitely merit to it.
yeah, for sure. And if enduro did take a massive downward turn, which I don't think it will, and I hope it doesn't, but obviously you get the feeling with some of the top riders in enduro that they are having a bit more of a dabble in downhill, and maybe the odd one is going to go back to downhill racing. Is that something that you would think about doing, or do you think it's been too
I
long?
don't know. Like I think Yeah, like I think it'd be hard for me. I've thought about doing the odd World Cup, and like I nearly did the last two last year, but just didn't work out. And I think it'd be cool, but I think the level is so high in downhill, and like the top guys, their bikes are so dialed, the amount of people they have on track, and like they're just, I think to try to think I could turn up and compete with those guys would kind of be a bit naive. So if I was to try do it, I'd want to do it properly and do it really well. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'd love to stay in enduro, honestly. Like as I say, I've been racing enduro so long, and it's kind of the riding I like to do, and it's the racing I like to do as well. Because no matter what an enduro race, you'll kind of go home with some good memories.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think my heart is in enduro, and it'll stay there. I
yeah.
would say.
I imagine that was what you were going to say. Um, So, like I said, I mentioned earlier, it looks to me, Greg, that you put a lot of effort into your preparation, whether it's, obviously this year was putting your program together, but always looks to me that you're always, in shape and ready for the season. Can you tell us a little bit about your sort of off-season training and how that goes and what kind of training you do?
Yeah, like I'd say it's nothing too crazy. I think consistency is the big thing. Um, I think for me, like I've always been kind of the opinion that like there's a lot of things in racing you can't control, but one thing you can is your physical preparation. So like I never want it to be an excuse. Like for me to turn up to a race and say, "Oh, I'm not fit enough, strong enough," I think is, you've kind of let yourself down then. So yeah, and I do enjoy the training. Like I enjoy a bit of suffering, so it's not too hard to get that done for me. And I think over the years, like having lads like Keelan around, we've always kind of bounced off each other with that stuff and pushed each other, so that definitely helps as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would say my training is nothing too crazy. It's just a lot of bike time. This year I probably aimed more towards the gravity side because I felt like that was where I had more room to improve. So
Yeah.
and as well with a new bike, like I wanted to get more time on the bike. So
Cool.
and I think I benefited from that. So it's something I'll bring into next year. I think I'll try, go with more kind of gravity riding.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like, obviously you've just come to the end of the season. Take it you have a little tiny bit of a rest and recoup, and then what does your training start off with at first? Is it bigger, longer rides before you move into intensity training, or is it a lot of gym work in the winter?
Yeah, there's definitely more gym work. Like in the winter, you'd be in the gym three times a week for like pretty long sessions, whereas in the summer it's kind of more short maintenance stuff. In terms of like getting back into training, we generally ease into it. Like at first, it's more just getting into a routine again and getting the body back used to kind of doing something every day. So the intensity would be quite low, and yeah, you would kind of maybe do some longer stuff, but nothing too crazy actually these days. And then yeah, as you kind of get closer and closer to the season, the rides start getting a bit shorter, but the intervals get a bit more intense,
Yeah.
and that's kind of when the dirtier stuff comes along, I would say. But yeah, honestly, I enjoy it. Like, yeah, a lot of the time when I go out riding, I'll probably do a little more than I'm meant to, and I just kind of like being out on the bike. So usually pretty happy to just keep riding.
And do you have like a program of somebody for your training, or are you able to do that yourself because you've been at it for so long now?
No, I definitely, yeah, like I have Chris Murray from Point One.
Oh,
Um, yeah, like I think I have a fair idea of what I would need to do, but I definitely wouldn't be able to put the structure on it and put the details into it like he would. So, I think there's definitely a lot to be said for trusting someone else with that kind of stuff. And, he's able to see as well, like my highs and lows and when I'm tired or when I'm going well and, when to tone things back or,
yeah.
yeah, because I think that's, for me, it's a big thing. You kind of, as an athlete, you're always kind of questioning yourself and what you're doing and everything. So, to trust in someone else's plan, I think for me works well.
Cool, cool. And do you do a lot of your training on your own, or like you mentioned, you and Keelan get out quite a bit when you can? Do you prefer to train with somebody else, or do the majority of the work on your own?
I'd say majority on my own, yeah. Like when I'm home, like me and Keelan would probably try ride together once a week. It was a bit less this year, but hopefully we can do more. Um, but yeah, generally, because even like if we do ride together, we might have different intervals
Yeah,
or something, and like quite often we will. Like one of us will adjust our session to suit. But yeah, I would do most of it on my own because you're kind of you go out the door and you do your warm up, your intervals, you recover, and it's all kind of planned out. So that plan is specific to me. So if I'm going out with someone else, you're just kind of trying to mix and match what you're doing. So yeah, there's time and a place. Like the more technical sessions, you try ride with people.
yeah,
Like if you're going out doing uplifts or whatever.
yeah.
But I would say like the intervals and stuff, I generally do on my own.
Fair enough. And
Mm.
do you try and always get somewhere to get out of the crappy weather in the winter to do a block in some nicer weather, or does that kind of vary on the year?
Yeah, it varies on the year. Like some years, by the time Christmas hits, you're dying to get a bit of sun, and other years the winter's not too bad, so you're all right. I'm going to be based in France this winter, so we might be in the snow. I might be skiing. See how that
Where,
goes.
where,
Uh, Kind of close to Morsey, not too far from Morsey.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like next valley over. So I think like when they have a pretty dry winter, you can ride most of the winter. But we'll see how it goes. I think summer was pretty bad, so we'll see is the winter going to go the same way.
Well, I guess, even from there, it's not super far from going down to the south of France, is it? So you could always venture down there if you had a couple
Yeah,
of.
exactly. Even yeah, like once you go through the Mont Blanc tunnel, you're into Aosta, which is Pila, and like that's normally open in winter. Or you keep going, you're in Finale, or you can get to Barcelona in a day's driving. So yeah, if the weather does turn a bit crappy, it's a bit easier to escape because you just load the van and go. But yeah, generally though, I would do, at least two kind of good weather camps per winter, I would say.
Awesome. And so what's the
Mm.
goal, after this successful year this year, what's the goal for next year? Like what, more of the same, or have you got some, targets that you really want to try and achieve next year?
Yeah, like I try not to focus too much on the numbers, but like it's kind of hard to ignore it as well. Like I think like Ludenville, it was great to get a podium, but at the same time, it was a bit bittersweet because I felt like I could have won. And like after stage one, like I had an 8-second lead, and then I ended up third. So
Yeah,
I definitely want another win.
yeah. Well, you're capable now, so you
Yeah,
just
exactly, and that's it.
put
Um,
pieces
so
together.
it is there. Yeah. So yeah, like I'd love a win, but I'd also just love a consistent year in the top 10, and I know that'll be good for the overall then. So yeah, like if I improve on this year, I'll be happy. Once I keep moving forwards, I think it's a success.
Yeah, cool. Well, and then world champs next year, obviously, you got an amazing result this year and you were battling for a medal. So I guess the same again. You wanna be battling for a medal at world champs.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Elech was kind of my weakest race this year, so I'll need to iron a few things out of that one. It was a tough race, and it's going to be a really cool world champs. Like it's at high altitude, it's got long stages, it's pretty alpine. There's also some bike park stuff. So like, yeah, I think it's a really really cool venue for world champs. And yeah, hopefully I can have a good one there again.
Cool. And will you try and get there before world champs with it being, you knowing that the world champs are going to be there?
Not really. No, I'm not really into the pre-practice thing, to be honest. Because I obviously don't think it's good for the sport, but I actually don't know how much it helps as well. Like, we've already raced there. I have my GoPros from this year. I can watch them,
Yeah,
and I think that'll kind of do me. You know, I've over the years I've done a couple of times going to places early, and honestly, I don't know how much it helps because it's different when it's taped and one or two runs down a track. You're not completely learning it, and you're not riding it at full speed. So yeah, I think nowadays we track walk, we practice, and then we watch the GoPros. Because by the time you're racing, you have a pretty good idea. Anyway, I think.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but yeah, it
yeah.
doesn't stop people doing it, and obviously some people think, obviously do see the benefit to it. So
Maybe it's a
yeah,
maybe it's a mental thing with some people. Like they think they've been there, they've rode, so they're going to be better. And like you say, I'm not sure it does make that much difference. It could be different. Like obviously we've been to races at Whistler, and people who have spent a lot of time at Whistler seem to do well on the big long from the top of the world tracks and stuff. But
mm.
uh, who knows if you go into a venue what's not a bike park like Whistler, how much benefit it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's not a guarantee that if you pre-practice you're going to do better. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Fair enough.
that's,
And so obviously, seeing you at the races and over the years when I've been there, it seems to me, which I love, your dad's a huge part of your riding career as well as being your dad. He's always there supporting you and still smashes it himself on the bike. Tell me a little
yeah.
bit about your dad and how you started into mountain biking and what you did growing up. How did it all come about for you?
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. As you say, it's really cool how much he supports it and that he comes out and not only watches the races, but like he's so involved.
Yeah,
And like, oftentimes he's the one at the end of the stage telling riders the results and stuff. And like I remember one year he told Jared that he won the series
yeah,
because he had worked out the points,
brilliant.
which is yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, but yeah, for me, like the family, like the Callaghan family's always been massive into bikes, more so motorbikes. So like growing up, once I was born, my dad was racing motorbike enduro, so I grew up around that.
Yeah,
I started out riding trials with him and did that for quite a few years. And then, the thing about motorbikes, like I could only go out in the trials like when he would take me,
yeah,
but I could come home from school and grab my bicycle and go and find some jumps and mess around a bit. So it was as simple as that, really, how I ended up in mountain biking and not motorbikes. I just kind of started messing around, met some people at it, and then before you know it, you kind of have a friend group to go out with at the weekends, and you're finding trails and you're going to races, and yeah, that was it really.
And did your dad ever want you to do the motorbike enduro, or did he ever try and steer you in that direction, or was he just happy for you to do whatever you wanted to do?
Yeah, he always just kind of left me to it. Like the mountain bike thing, it was kind of at first it was kind of the thing I was doing myself because, as I say, it was kind of what I was doing when I couldn't go out on the motorbike with him. And there was definitely a time when it was trials and mountain bikes happening at the same time. But then I started, I choose the mountain bike race over the trial. Um, and yeah, like there was one point I think my dad got a phone call offering some support to race motorbike enduros. Just because someone had seen that like I'd done well in the trials, I'd done well in mountain biking, and they kind of wanted a rider to develop to kind of go race moto enduros. And my dad kind of saw that the mountain bike was going well, and he knew the expense on the motorbike side. Like it's crazy. I think you know it as well from motocross and stuff. Like, so he kind of just said no on my behalf. Which when I heard that out, I was just like, what the hell? But then in hindsight, like definitely the right call because yeah, I don't think I would have been able to do like what I've done in moto and enduro compared to mountain biking because yeah, as I say, with mountain bikes you can buy a bike, load the van, and go racing, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. Well, you never know. You're a talented fella, so. But yeah, you've not made a bad choice in what you've done for sure. And once you got much more involved in the mountain biking, did that swerve your dad to go and do a bit more of that as opposed to the motorbiking to come and ride with you and support you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like he'd never tried mountain biking really before I did. Um, and then yeah, it was kind of before you knew it, he was kind of giving it a go and enjoying it more and more. And then a couple of uncles had come and cousins had come, and like now we're maybe 50-50 mountain bike trials family, which is really cool. Um, Maybe even more on the mountain bike side. So yeah, it's meant, and I think that's kind of just a global evolution of mountain biking as well. Like the last 10, 15 years, how many people have gotten into it, and especially coming from motorbikes because it's just it's a lot easier to go out on a mountain bike on a Sunday than it is on a motorbike.
Sure.
And there's a lot more places to ride and stuff. So yeah, yeah, it's really cool. And like, for him to go from not really pedaling bikes much to now, he's raced in EWS, he's raced Stone King Rally, and he's doing well at races at home and stuff. So, he's a full on mountain biker these days. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about you. You did the Stone King Rally with your dad. That's a flipping big race, and he did that. Did he love it? Did he?
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. So like the year before he did finale EWS, which was like his big goal. And like when he entered to do that, he was pretty far away from being ready for it. But he's a pretty motivated, determined guy. So like he was flipping training as much as I was. He was on the turbo every night after work,
No way.
and he was fit as a fiddle by the time he did it. So he did finale, and then me and my sister were kind of like, like it'd be good to give him another goal to kind of chase and keep him on that track of staying fit. So then the next year he was going to be 60,
Yeah,
and Stone King was coming up. So for his 60th birthday, we entered him into Stone King.
brilliant.
And we didn't tell him, and then we told him, we gave him the present at Christmas, and his face was just like, "Oh my god," because I think at first he didn't think it was possible, but
Yeah,
yeah, he just kept training like a bulldog, and just yeah, he was well able for it when the time came, and it was good because he was actually fit enough that he got to enjoy it as well.
yeah,
So yeah, it was really cool to have done that together, and yeah, I think it set him off now into like he's stayed fit since then. He stayed riding loads, and it's probably opened the doors of what he can ride on the bike a bit as well. So it's cool.
yeah. Good, good. I mean, even I think when you're racing and you're an athlete, you've always got a goal to work towards. But when you're
Mm.
not doing that, it's sometimes quite difficult to motivate yourself to keep fit and do things. So yeah, that's cool that you did that for him, and it's good to
Mm.
have a goal, to work towards. Brilliant
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the scene in Ireland. How's the scene at the moment in Ireland with enduro and downhill? And obviously I've seen Glyn puts a race series on, and but he did tell me there was a few challenges this year with budgets for racing and stuff. How's the scene at the moment in Ireland?
Yeah, I'd say it's really good. Like in terms of enduro, like we've 3 enduro series at the moment, which is crazy for such a small little island. And I think numbers are generally quite good for entries and stuff. And again, bike industry's having a bit of a tough time. So like sponsorships and stuff, even for events,
Mhm.
is tough, and the cost of running events and stuff has definitely gone up. So it's not easy for those guys, and I definitely, anyone listening, like if there's local enduros on near you, like just go and do it, even if you're not competitive. Like just put an entry in and go enjoy the atmosphere, because like we've seen even in your area, like Tweed Love stopping this year, like it's such a shame to see all these grassroots or national level series stopping, because that's where the future world champions are made. It's not at the EDRs, it's these local races that build the future riders. So yeah, we need to support them, we need them around. But yeah, in terms of scene in Ireland, it's brilliant. Like obviously the downhill is booming at the moment now with Ronan and Oisin doing so well. It's really, created a lot of excitement, and it's given people kind of the goo for downhill, which is class. And then like even on the recreational side, like the amount of trails being built, the trail centers, it's insane. Like the quality of the tracks and the amount of them being built is really cool. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be helping them build a trail on my local hill in Ticknock,
Oh,
just
brilliant.
outside Dublin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like they're putting in a black trail kind of on the side of the hill that, I've like as long as I've been mountain biking, that's been like my favorite place to ride. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna like help them like design and build a trail, which is insane. Like when I started biking, like we weren't like we would get trouble from walkers and stuff riding up there, and now it's like here's a bit of hill, here's your machines and stuff, you can go
Awesome.
dig. Like yeah, it's crazy the place it's at now. It's amazing.
Oh, that's cool. I'll definitely have to get over there and have a go on that trail then when it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I might have to swoop into Jerry's pub. I don't know where that was, but where we I've never tasted Guinness like that in my life. It was unreal.
Yeah, there's plenty of Guinness around. Don't worry about that. We'll get you some.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to come over for that. So the first World Cup next year is that May time, and that's going to be in
Yeah,
Poland. Is the first? No, the first.
Pietra,
Yeah,
Pietra in Poland. Yeah,
sorry. And then it goes to Poland after that. Is that right?
yeah.
Okay, so uh, Pietra, is that somewhere where you think's a good venue to start the season off? Obviously, we've been there a few times. And it's in the finale region, so do you think that's a good place to
Yeah, I
start?
think so. I think it's good to start. It's good. Yeah, it's a bit easier, a bit more peace of mind to start somewhere a bit more familiar. Like I think everyone knows at least the finale region. We've raced Pietra a few times as well. So yeah, it's always good atmosphere, good organization, good trails. So yeah, it's always a good race.
Yeah, so obviously, we were saying Pietra's a good venue to start the season off. So obviously, everyone will be working towards that race and try and kick off the year with a good result and to get going for the season. And I believe there's 7 EDRs next year plus Worlds. That's I believe one more than this year. And there's
Hmm.
10 downhill World Cups according to the schedule. How many do you think is the right amount for a World Series? Would you like to see 10 in Enduro, or do you think seven's enough?
I think it's quite a good number. Yeah, like we've always been about 7 or 8, haven't we? So yeah, like I think it's quite good. I think obviously it would be cool to leave Europe and maybe do the North American races or Tasmania or
Yeah,
Chile, Colombia, those kind of venues. But I understand, they're probably trying to keep costs down for just how things are at the moment. So I think it does kind of fit, and it would maybe be nice to see it spread throughout the year a bit, because at the moment I think it's only from May till September, so it's quite condensed. So like once we start racing, it's kind of like every couple of weeks we're racing.
yeah,
Whereas maybe to spread that out, between March, October, whatever, like it has been in the past, could be nice. But yeah, it's hard to say what the right number is. Like I think sometimes you want to race every weekend, and other times you want a bit of a break to kind of.
yeah.
Depends if it's going well. Obviously, you just want to keep racing every week, and when it's going badly, you wouldn't mind a few weeks off to kind of reset and build. So yeah, it's hard to say what would be the perfect amount.
Sure. And so, going into next year, who would you say are going to be the main competitors that you're going to have to try and beat to get on the podium? Similar guys to this year? Anyone new coming up that you think will be more consistent?
Yeah, I think definitely similar to this year. Like obviously, like Alex winning world champs is obviously going to give him a bit of confidence in the off season. So I'd imagine he'll be fighting for the overall with Richie, I would think. Hopefully Jack will be back healthy, Jesse will be going well again. And then there's young guys like Jack Menzies and Louis Jondal. He finished the year really strong. Um, yeah, there's so many guys. That's the thing. Like when you look through a results sheet now,
Yeah,
there's probably 20 guys that on their day could be on the podium.
yeah,
So yeah, it's hard. It's cool though. It's exciting times because yeah, and the cool thing with enduro, like as you know, is we're all quite good friends, and when someone does well, like someone who's maybe normally 20th or whatever, and they have a bit of a breakout result, everyone's really happy for each other. So it's not like you're looking at guys as rivals too much,
yeah,
which is cool. You're just kind of
yeah.
yeah, like someone beats you, you're genuinely kind of happy for them. So it's a pretty cool sport for that.
Cool, cool. And so you mentioned before we started, you going off to Mexico to do a
Mm.
multi-day enduro, is it? How many days is that over?
Yeah, it's 4 days of racing.
Okay.
Yeah, next week. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I've never been to Mexico, and it looks like it's a race I've kind of had earmarked for a few years because it just looks like such a good time. Looks like a really fun week and amazing trails, and I don't really know a whole lot about it, which is cool. And that's usually when you get pleasantly surprised. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Good. Yeah, well, definitely let
Mm.
us know how that is. And then so, but after that, come back, bit of a break, start your training. Have you got any sort of races that you're going to do prior to the World Series kicking off again, the World Cup, sorry?
I don't have too many marked so far. Like I see the Andy Pacifico is back next year, which is cool. That's another multi-day race down in Chile. So, I think that's in January, and that could maybe be a good move to go do that.
Yeah.
Get a bit of, good weather riding and a bit of racing as well early in the year. Um, yeah, and it's cool to see an event like that back again because it went away for a few years. But yeah, haven't marked too many races yet. I'll kind of see what gets announced. I did the Epic Enduro this year as a pre-season race,
Yeah.
which was really cool. It was really good training, and it's mental race. Like it's huge, but it's a bit closer to the season this year, so I don't think I'll get to do it because it's just a bit too close to the first World Cup.
What's mental about it? What's so challenging about that race?
So, well, yeah, it's like it was 110 kilometers, 5,000 meters of climbing, and I
Yeah.
think 11 or 12 stages in one day.
One day. I
It was
didn't.
nuts, and it was in Olarg, where we raced in 2018. So it's like one of the gnarliest venues we've had,
Oh my God.
and like that, there was a real gnarly stage in that race, La Crête, it's called, and I think that was like stage 9. So we were like,
Oh,
you've been riding for like 12 hours, and then you drop into that.
oh,
I think it's crazy. You do the first 2 stages in the dark with night lights.
no way.
Yeah, like it's just a mental race, and I wish more people knew about it because it's such a like to me it's such a bucket list thing to go and do to try finish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have loved to have done it again, but it's just not going to line up. But for anyone not racing World Cups who has a bit of time in April, I'd highly recommend racing that.
Okay. And out of all the other than the World Cups you've done, World Series, you've done quite a lot of those multi-day races. What
Mm.
would you say is one for people to go and do if they've not done it before?
I would have said Stone King, but I guess this year was the last year, so that's finished. That's always an epic one. I think Annie Pacifico will be really good.
Okay.
It looks like Trans Sierra Norte is really good, and honestly, I don't think any of them are bad. I think they're all in cool locations, really cool trails, good organization, and there's always really good people at them.
Yeah.
Trans Madeira is one I haven't done, but that looks really good. Like having ridden
Do
in
that.
in Madeira a bit, like the trails are class, the people are class. So I'd imagine that's a really good week.
Yeah. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, um, I think we can wrap it up there, Greg. That's been amazing. Hearing all your stories and what you think about the sport, and you know, obviously, just a huge congrats on your whole career since you've been doing enduro. You've done amazing. You've done Ireland proud. You've done your dad proud, and I really enjoyed seeing with you, and our team battling with you over the years as well. So yeah, I hope really stoked to see you doing well again this year, and hope you can keep that up next year. And I'll be cheering you on from the computer if I'm not at any races.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, we miss you at the races, so hopefully you'll be back again. You always hear like, "Oh, lad," on the side of the track, so it'd be good to get that back.
Yeah, I'd love to try and make it out to some. See how it goes. But yeah, thanks for your time and coming on. It's been great to have you on. Really appreciate that. And if anyone wants to reach out to you and give you a load of cash to go racing, support your program, where's the best place to get to you and to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, Instagram and YouTube. Greg Callaghan on YouTube and Greg underscore Callaghan on Instagram. You can find me there and try to keep us all up to date on what I'm up to. The YouTube something we kind of restarted again this year, and we're going to keep it going through the off season and into next season. So yeah, follow along. And well, thanks for having me on. It's good to chat. Always good to chat bikes.
Well, thanks very much for coming on, and please say hello to your dad for me. I like your dad; he's great. Uh,
I think he just did. I'm sure he's going to listen to this.
cool, cool. Thanks very much, mate.
Cheers.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that episode. I thought it was great chatting to Greg. He's a really nice dude. Done amazing results in the enduro, and it was really cool to see him back up there this year. I'm always rooting for him, and yeah, hopefully he can continue that next year. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps with the channel. And we've set up a buy me a coffee. If you feel like you've enjoyed the episode and you don't mind donating the price of a coffee, that'll really help with us keeping the podcast going. Maya puts in a ton of work and doesn't earn any money out of it, so that'll go to her for a time to do all the editing and setting everything up because I'm useless at doing all that. So we do really appreciate that. And hopefully, I'll get another great guest on next week. So have a great weekend and we'll see you all soon. Cheers.